Hi, Jeff Price here. Welcome to Season 3 of Telling Tales. We have brand new stories for you. We'll take you from the Sahara Desert and time travel to a dystopian future. We'll meet up again with John Paul Doherty and Mary McGlade. Now, all the stories are free to download, and if you enjoy them, why not buy me a cup of coffee? The link is on the podcast front page. I hope you enjoy them. The red telephone box. This is one event, but it's two moments in time. Short story by me, Jeff Price. By the time 7 o'clock came, a thin drizzle of rain had begun to hang over the estate of council houses Jack called home. He could see the red telephone box from the top of the street. Jack had two questions on his mind. Was there a queue? And if there wasn't, was it working? Thankfully, the rain had put off almost anyone except someone in a dark jacket who he could hear shouting. The next moment, they were banging the receiver against the back wall and kicking out the small panes of glass in the bottom of the door, sending shards of glass and bakelite scattering in every direction. Jack ran as fast as he could. He needed that phone box. He had the number on the back of his hand. Pam had written it there herself in eyebrow pencil, under the orange glow of a street lamp on the way home from the youth club last Friday. "Ring me," she had said. It didn't matter that the rain began to blur it. He'd been ringing her in his head ever since, the number etched into his memory until he knew it better than his own birthday. He had noticed her almost as soon as he walked into the church youth club that night, though he would have denied it if anybody'd asked. It was she who made the first move, crossing the floor with a boldness that made his stomach turn. "Would you like to dance?" He would, very much. They talked like they'd known each other for years, family and friends, school, and the particular problems of being 15 in Newcastle in 1968. She had a soft voice and a laugh that seemed to catch him off guard each time. And by the end of the night, he was fairly certain he'd never met anybody quite like her. He walked her home through the leafy streets of Fenham, and somewhere along the way had quietly slipped his hand into hers, and her stomach tightened for a moment, and she smiled and looked up at him. "Thanks for a great night. I've really enjoyed myself," he said. "Me too." Do you like the pictures? There's 2001: A Space Odyssey at the Plaza on Saturday. Would you like to go?" I don't know. I mean, I would like to go, but there's some kind of family thing going on this weekend. Ring me on Friday." And she took out an eyebrow pencil out of her handbag and wrote a number on his hand. His parents didn't have a telephone. The fact that she did seemed remarkable to him. And now here he was, running towards a telephone box in the rain, watching a man in a dark jacket reduce it to shrapnel. As Jack reached the box, the man opened the door. Jack was about to say something when he saw the fire in his eyes and realized, wrong word, and he'd end up just like the phone box. Arthur Blenkinsop was just settling down to listen to the BBC News at 6 when he heard the shouting and the sound of breaking glass. He went over to the window, peeked out into the road in front of his house. "Betty, there's someone knackering the phone box again. Call the police." As Arthur made his way to the front door, the cat, suddenly disturbed from its late afternoon nap, remembered it was time to be fed and ran towards the kitchen. "Bloody cat!" Arthur muttered to himself as he almost tumbled over the fleeing animal. Arthur grabbed his jacket, went out into the cold, damp night air, just in time to see Jack running towards the phone box, and in the distance a shadowy figure disappearing up the street. "Is that him, Jack?" Arthur said, pointing in the direction of the fleeing figure. "Yes." Jack could see the shattered remains of the telephone receiver lying on the floor. Jack knew Arthur. He'd often complained when he or his friends kicked their ball into his garden, or worse still, hit the window. He would bend Jack's dad's ear about it at the Catholic club on a Sunday afternoon, and that meant another scolding from his dad. Jack looked up at Arthur, his voice heavy with disappointment. I needed to phone my girlfriend. Though he liked the way the word girlfriend sounded, even if they'd only just met and had never kissed. Don't worry, lad. Look, here comes the panda car. A Morris Minor pulled up. Constable Barris, reluctant to leave the warmth of the car, wound down the window. What's up, Arthur? Arthur quickly explained what had occurred, gave a brief description of the lad, and pointed in the direction he had run off into. OK, we'll have a look. I'll let you know if anything happens. And the panda car sped off into the gloom. Arthur turned to Jack. Well, that's the last we'll see of him tonight. He'll be back in the warmth of the nick before you can say match of the day. Come on, Jack. We've got a phone you can use. Jack and Pam spent the next 2 years in a fury of love. But love and lust are never enough, and Pam met someone new in sixth form college, and Jack spent the next month in mourning, only to fall head over heels for a girl in a saffron sari he met in the Handyside arcade. Jack managed to get into university and did a social work degree. On the 1st of November 1974, he started work as a social worker with Newcastle City Council. And that's how the story could end. Or could it end in another way? The cat had not yet had its say. In his haste, Arthur didn't see the cat in time, and before he knew where he was lying in a heap in the hallway. Bloody cat, I'll swing for that little bugger. You're right, Arthur. You're right, Arthur, Betty called, as he brushed himself off and tried to regain his composure. Yeah, just call the police. With that, he was out the door just in time to see a young man in a black jacket standing over the wreckage of the phone box. Arthur ran over, and before the vandal could escape, he had him by the collar. Got you, you little bastard! Get off! I saw you kicking in that box. The coppers are on their way. I'm sick of you little bastards like you wrecking everything on this estate. It wasn't me, it was someone else that went that way. He pointed up the road, but Arthur wasn't having any of it. He had him. He wasn't going to let him go. Arthur knew who he was. He was Peter Johnson's boy. He'd lost count of the number of times that lad had kicked his football at his house or in his garden. They always said it was an accident, but Arthur knew better. At that moment, a blue panda car came round the corner. Caught him red-handed, constable. I saw him with my own eyes from my house over there. And I came straight out and nabbed him. He's called Jack Johnson. It wasn't me. I keep telling him the bloke ran off down the street when I got here. I came to phone my girlfriend. What's her name then, this girlfriend? At that moment, Jack's brain froze. It's But the word wouldn't come. It was locked in a box deep in his memory, and the more he tried to remember, the more confused he became. He looked down at the back of his hand. The number, already blurred by the rain, was gone entirely. See, I told you, Arthur said triumphantly. Can't even come up with a name. He's always causing trouble round here, that one. I had to tell his dad dozens of times about him and his mates. All right, sir. We need you to call in at the station tomorrow and make a statement. But in the meantime, thank you. We'll take care of it from here. Right, son, you're coming with me. Constable Barris opened the car door. But it wasn't me. I was going to use the phone box to call my girlfriend. I saw someone attacking it. They went off that way. Once again he pointed up the street. Save your breath, son. That man saw you. Now get in the car. We're going to the station. He never forgot the look on Arthur's face. Not the malice, just certainty. That was the thing that stayed with him. Not the police station, not the cold back seat of the Morris Minor, just the absolute, unshakable certainty of a man who'd already made up his mind. Jack never did get in touch with Pam, but the sense of it just as it left in him eventually found a purpose. And on the 1st of November 1974, he started work as a social worker with Newcastle City Council. Sitting across a desk from a 15-year-old who couldn't quite explain where he'd been or why, Jack would always say, "Take your time, son. I'm listening." And he always was. The end of both stories. Thank you for listening to Telling Tales. If you enjoyed the story, please share with your friends. If you have any questions, then there's an email link on the front page. See you next time. Wrong word, and he'd end up just like the phone box.